All right, everybody. This is the final one before we wrap up our first inaugural 2018 Facilities Forum. And so we have the pleasure of having Jeff Benjamin, who is one of our executive directors, going to come and speak to us about emergency planning and preparedness. And of course, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And so.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I have the dubious honor of not only being the first presentation after lunch, but the last one of the day, so I'm just inviting everybody sleeping and everybody wanting to leave, so hopefully this goes well. We're going to talk a little bit about emergency planning and preparedness today, and I just want to kind of gauge the room a little bit before we get started. How many people have been through a hurricane? All right, excellent. How about an earthquake? All right, how about a fire? Active shooter situation? Chemical spill? Fuel spill? Yeah, so you understand it's not just about hurricanes. I'll talk a lot about hurricanes, but it's not just about hurricanes. When I approach emergency preparedness and planning, the first thing that always comes to my mind is Benjamin Franklin, good old Ben. Ounce of prevention equals a pound of cure. Now, he was talking about health at the time. You take care of your health. You prevent a lot of bad things from happening. But it applies to emergency management and preparedness. Prevention is far superior to reaction. And how do we do that? Well, the National Incident Management System is the first key. NIMS was a framework set up by the federal government that kind of orchestrates how interagencies work together. State, local, federal, tribal, universities, state, everybody kind of comes together, so they're operating on the same playbook. University of Houston Emergency Management Office, they require us to go through FEMA training. Everybody's required to do 1 to 200, 7 to 800. There's others out there, but that's kind of the basics for the leadership. And then for folks like our first responders, in terms of public facilities first responders, it's 1 to 200 training. We have a UH emergency management plan, hurricane planning guide, write-out team guide. We have a lot of resources that we use to prepare for emergencies. So when I talk about all these things, just keep in mind, I didn't create any of these. I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here because this is stuff that much smarter people developed so that people like me wouldn't die in an emergency. So facilities preparedness. This begins long before the storm. How far back do you think we should start preparing? Year. Who said when you build the building? Yeah. All right. When you're building the building, you should be thinking about this stuff. How's it going to react in a fire? How's it going to react? We have engineers that kind of figure that stuff out for us. How are we going to protect the building in a storm? What's it going to do during an earthquake? What are we going to use this building for? Is it going to be needed during an emergency for something? All those things need to go into that. We have a lot of facilities design standards. We have hurricane wind standards. We have earthquake standards, things like that. Next is preventive maintenance program. It's all great to build this wonderful building, but if you don't do anything to keep it working and operating properly for 10 or 15 years, and then the hurricane comes, none of those great things are going to work for you. So that preventive maintenance and repair play into this. If the key infrastructure is poorly designed, poorly maintained, I guarantee it will fail you in an emergency. Guaranteed. And then my other motto, and this is something I got from my commanding officer at NMC 133, Al Stratton, one is none. If you only have one of a thing and you need it in an emergency, it probably won't work for you. You need to have at least 2 of all those critical items so that you're ready for that emergency. Days like that cost too much to apply. Pre-event preparations. Review the plan. Implement the plan, make necessary adjustments to the plan, and make new plans as necessary. You want to have your architecture in place before the event occurs. If you have not thought about fires or hurricanes or earthquakes or any of the other emergencies that could befall a university or a campus, until that event occurs, you're way behind. It's good to have these plans. And there's probably people that have these plans for you already. Like I said, our emergency management department, they have a group of people who make us review this stuff periodically. So, I think we're in pretty good shape. But when it comes time to do those reviews, make sure you do them and that you're familiar with the plans. A couple of other quotes that I think are worth noting. Plans are worthless, planning is indispensable. Now, does that mean you shouldn't plan? No. But what it means is that the process of planning prepares you for the event. The plan itself may fall apart when the event occurs, but at least you have the architecture in place to deal with the situation and you've thought about it. And then the other one is plans are only good until first contact with the enemy. Well, this is kind of a battlefield axiom. It applies in the world of emergency management. You have all the greatest plans in the world, and it can fall apart. Give you a great example. Hurricane Harvey. All of our planning had a 24 to 72 hour planning window. Nobody in the world thought that this storm was going to set on us for 6 days. So it kind of changed what our plan was when it actually occurred.
So, Jeff,
Yeah.
when you got the 48 hours and the plan stopped, you just said, okay, everyone go home.
Yeah, everybody go home, the plan's finished. Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way. So, speaking of Hurricane Harvey, so this was a Category 4 hurricane when it made landfall. If you were like me, you were watching the news, you saw it go across the Yucatan Peninsula and fall apart and think, whew, nothing. 24 hours later, it was a Category 4 hurricane. I mean, it was insane. It was the most insane thing I've ever seen. It hit on August 25th, and then it stalled over southeast Texas. It dropped 50 inches of rain in the Houston metropolitan area. It was a 1,000-year flooding event, and the water dropped by this storm was so heavy, the volume of this water, that the actual elevation of Houston sunk by 1 inch. I mean, just phenomenal. And our plan, we dealt with it perfectly, right? No problems. So, what then? Well, no excuses, right? The Chancellor committed to opening the university on the 5th of September. And it was achieved mostly. I think we had a few buildings that weren't ready, but we had everybody back there. When we saw that, we hadn't even finished our damage assessment. So, but there's the goal. But it's important to never lose sight of our overall mission, which is educating our students. And then how did we do this? Well, a lot of it came from the fact that we had a plan. Our emergency response plan, we had a physical recovery emergency plan. I left the link on here to kind of show you where that's at. We had a hurricane planning guide, write-out teams were here, ready to go. Went through our pre-storm checklist. We had event-specific planning going on. We had a good continuity of operations plan because unlike most people who experience a disaster, we were also our own first responders. So victim and first responder at the same time. I think we had the custodians were here at about 85%. Everybody else was around 30. So kudos to the Liliana's group for their dedication. Staff preparedness. Fight the way you train. So if you're not training your plan, if you're not walking through the plan, and you don't know what's in your plan until the event occurs, that's going to be pretty evident. So you need to understand what's going on, whose roles are to do what. Rehearse them, exercise the plan, and then have a plan B, and probably a plan C, and probably a plan D. Just have contingencies in place to prepare yourself for when things don't go the way you plan. Communications. We're governed by DIMS, the hierarchy I was mentioning. We have the EOC on campus. If key is to have your key decision maker in that EOC, have a plan B for communications with those fail, because they probably will. I know during Katrina, cell towers were knocked out, but we couldn't use phone to communicate, but we could still text. For some reason, I don't know why, but you were still able to text. And then have governing guidance for lack of communication. What do you do if you can't communicate with each other? In the military, we call that, commander's guidance. Understanding what the mission is so that if you don't have orders, you know what you need to do. The same thing here. If you can't communicate with somebody, you still know what you need to accomplish until somebody tells you different. First thing we did after the storm cleared was we started the damage assessments. What I had used here, and it was kind of on the fly, was the American Technology Council 45 Field Manual for Safety and Evaluation of Buildings After Windstorms and Floods. They have checklists for damage assessments that are very easy to follow. You start with the rapid assessment, you go through and make sure the buildings are structurally sound. Then you go back and do a detailed assessment. The key is to find out how widespread the damage is, what buildings are still usable, that kind of stuff. And it helps the decision makers and the planners then decide how things are going to go. Then you start with your detailed assessment, fixed equipment assessment. From there, and you start your recovery process. These are some of the forms to give you an idea of what they look like. So this is the rapid assessment form. Very minimal details on here. Are the walls standing? Is the building still on its foundation? Is the roof still there? There's just some key things you want to know about a building. And then you go back and do the detailed assessment. How much damage is in the building? Is it usable? So here we're kind of doing triage, and then here we're doing maybe diagnosis. And then this is the equipment checklist. That just goes through the major equipment in the building. If it's damaged, if it's repairable, if it's out of commission, if for good, that kind of thing. So, you've got a housing building that the air conditioner is destroyed. Well, even though the building may be structurally sound, you're not going to be able to occupy it right away in Houston in the summertime anyway. So this helps the decision makers with their efforts. We didn't use these, but this is the other part of that, is when you do the rapid assessment, you have a red placard, a green placard, and a yellow placard that you can stick on the building, on the doors, to let people know that the building, one, has been inspected and what condition it is. So if it's a red placard, it's unsafe, it tells everybody to stay out of the building until we get some engineers in here to fix it. If it's restricted use, it's yellow. Maybe a couple of rooms have got water damage, but the rest of the building's sound. That would be a yellow building, and then inspected means the building is good to go and can be used without restrictions. So what were our lessons learned? Well, we'll get into that a little bit, but this is a very critical part of the planning process. After the storm or after the event, sit down with your teams, talk about what worked, and more importantly, what didn't work. Capture those things and incorporate it into your planning process. Focus on all layers of the organization. Don't just talk to the senior leaders, because while they have a lot of information, there's things that they may not know or may not have heard that your frontline staff have experienced and that could really benefit your plan. Multiple hot washers are allowed. You can have one with your frontline staff, one with your mid-managers, one with your senior management, maybe one with your emergency management organization, and then capture that new information and adjust the plans accordingly. So our key lessons, like I said, the write-out plan that we had was typically based on the normal hurricane pattern. It comes through, drops a lot of water, blows a lot of wind, and moves out within a few hours, and then you're all clear to kind of start responding. This one lasted 5 days. The expectations of our write-out team quickly changed. Normally you just hunker down, wait for the storm to pass, and you go out and start fixing stuff. Well, we needed to start fixing stuff during the storm to kind of limit the damage. Then we also discovered that we have a canal that grows during storms that prevented us from getting from where we were to where we needed to go. So, you know, these things changed our plan quite a bit. Response was heavily impacted by personal situations. We had folks that were rescued from the top of their house. You know, they were flooded completely out. And then, this is kind of an understatement, the high bar set for the recovery. When you know, the president goes on national television and says school starts Tuesday, there's not much room for discussion after that. School starts on Tuesday. And then finally, and this is one that, you know, I can't emphasize enough, I'll take being lucky over being skilled any day. Here at the campus, the main campus, we were lucky. We had some buildings that were, you know, damaged, but at the same time, it could have been so much worse. We've seen worse. Allison, they were actually worse to us than this was. In large part because of the lessons we learned from those two storms, we didn't suffer as much damage. But we also were able to sustain the rain where we really didn't get a lot of wind and impact damage from a storm. So, you know, lucky us, I guess. Finally, just some tools that we have to help us respond. We talked about this earlier in the conference, the emergency response contract. We have two teams on contract now. We're working on getting a third one on. It just gives us a few more tools in the tool bag. On the fly, we dealt with our job contractors to get them engaged, our trades contractors, we had a plumbing contractor, an electrician contractor that we could use, and then, you know, just a mantra that we learned here, unleashing the talent. Let your people impress you. Let them do things that are gonna make heroes out of themselves, and they did. So, I think that leaves us with questions. If you have any questions or comments or anything you'd like to share, this would be a great opportunity to let that happen.
In the design of new buildings, what would be the top three things that you would do? Sorry. In the design of new buildings, what would the top three things you would recommend doing for another birthday party?
Okay. Well, the things that come to my mind that impacted us the most, roof, building envelope, and backup generation capability. Yeah, no basements. Yeah, I'm sorry. Nothing against architects, but whoever decided to build subterranean space on our campus back in the 70s really just didn't do us any favors. The law library, the Anderson satellite, all those spaces took on water.
So no basements, that'd be number one.
Yeah, no basements. Yeah, no basements. You know, I think the resiliency, redundancy piece, you know, backup generation. I mean, this storm wasn't such a big deal because we didn't lose power, but typically that's not the case. So I know we had a lot of research, a lot of important stuff going on campus, and you know, it's a painful lesson to see that lost during the storm. I know TMC, the medical center, was a different situation, but you know, we lost power over there for a while, and it impacted them. You know, we really need to kind of make sure that we're in the planning process and the design process and the execution, that stuff doesn't get value engineered out. We use the term value engineering loosely because it's not really a value, it costs you money in the long run. So.
Did any of the generators run out of diesel fuel?
No. We didn't even have to run them. Yeah. Yeah, we didn't lose power. Now, downtown did, yes. Downtown, we had to help fuel you guys up. And luckily we were able to do that. Yeah. That again unleashed the talent, you know. I mean, we couldn't get out the normal pathways, so the road's closed. We'll just go the wrong way to Spur 5 access road here. You know, who's going to stop us? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and then the rest of it was, you know, envelope, roofs, things like that. That, you know, just really go back to my message.
I kind of have a two-part question.
Okay.
How many people are on the Whiteout team? And does each component campus have a write-out team as well, or is it just central?
Okay, well, on our write-out team, I think we have, between the central plant and maintenance guys, 24 folks, yeah, about 24 folks. Different mix of trades, call center, central plant operators, because they're on the shifts over there, keeping things going. But yeah, just a mixture of trades. And the idea behind that is you don't necessarily want to be in a position to fix everything that goes wrong, but be able to arrest any damage, quick response, that kind of stuff. And then once the storm passes, they're kind of the first group to go out and start your damage assessment and start fixing stuff. As far as the component campuses, I don't know. Four?
Yeah, and we'll bring in logistics. We've got contractors waiting, we've got trades waiting. Depends on who's flooded.
Yeah.
Person.
Yeah.
So we just do a massive, addition.
Yeah. All right. Victoria, clearly? Anybody there?
In Victoria, at that time, I was in IT, not projects. We had one IT person who stuck around and did all the first round.
Okay.
Until after. Still got pretty late.
Yes, I'm from UH downtown. We do have a write-out team, and then you talked about lessons learned. One of the things from Harvey is our write-out team historically just been the police department since they're 24/7, 365. But with Harvey not being able to get to campus for 3 days or whatever it was, there were situations where you really wished you had somebody with some facilities expertise on site and some IT expertise on site. So going forward, we're looking now at how we would kind of reconstitute our write-out team to include more than just police staffs. Some folks from facilities, at least one or two people from facilities, and one or two from IT as well. The other thing I'll make a comment, you're talking about things you can do with buildings to make them prepare for these types of events. Don't listen to the architects. Serious. Because what will happen is we experienced this at UH downtown with Ike in 2008, and we had a building, a Shade Street building, or a business building. When it was being constructed, designed, and everything else, they designed a roof that had a parapet around 3 sides, but the side that faced Main Street, they did not want a parapet there. They wanted to have like a flashing that turned down because it was going to look much nicer from the street. And our facilities guys at the time were saying, this is a bad idea, we should push back on this. And we did somewhat, but we're told, no, this is going to work. It'll hold up to 105, 110 miles per hour. But when Ike hit, guess what happened? That part of the roof peeled back, and we had all kinds of flooding. Abraham had to fix it all. But we had a lot of damage because of that. And we came back in afterwards to repair that roof, and there's parapet around 4 sides of the building now, which is how it should have been done in the first place. So what I'd say is when you're designing a building and you have those kinds of concerns, listen to that voice inside your head and don't get talked out of it, because usually there's a reason why you're thinking those things.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of a comment on the write-out team, just something to think about too is when you decide to have those folks on campus, you want to make sure that they're taken care of, they have a place to sleep, they have food to eat, that they're prepared for themselves. Some of us are getting a little older with more medications, things like that. You want them to be prepared to outlast the storm. Like I said, we planned for a 3-day event and it turned into 6. A lot of folks came prepared for 3. So our planning horizons changed a little bit. But those are some of the things. Our prep manual and our write-out team manual talks about a lot of that stuff. So feel free to go to the website and grab some of this stuff and plagiarize it, because I know we did. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. I hope this was useful. And if you have any questions about this, look me up. Oh, I got 30 minutes left? When I gave this speech to the oil guys, this took an hour. I don't know. They asked more questions.
It's time to relax the class.
Yeah, I know. I'm not going to keep you here for another 30 minutes. If there's no questions, we'll move on. All right. Bonus. Thanks.
Thank you, Jeff. That was very interesting. We kind of got the opportunity to relive it again. It's hard to believe it's almost a year since then. Okay, so we actually have completed all of our presentations. I know that David Oliver was going to do some closing remarks, but does anybody have any questions or something they want to offer for the good of the assembly before we do that? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to David.
I need that mic because I wander around. I know
Let's
you
see.
got one that works.
Yeah, well, I hope so. There you go. That's one I think he was using. It's working,
It's
yeah.
working, awesome. Test, everyone. What do you think? I want to say I was impressed. I think that just looking around the room today, I kind of just watched a lot, I wouldn't say too much. And the interaction I saw between all the different universities was just, that's what I wanted to see now. It really was the goal. I mean, we all have the same problems. We all know we have to deal with them, but more than likely somebody's already figured it out once. So why spend your time figuring it out when there's already a solution floating around? You just need to know the right person to ask. So that was a lot of what this was about. I think the information we got, I learned several things. I'm going to be honest with you. I learned several things through these that I did not know. So hopefully there was some nuggets of information in there that you can take back with you. As part of this, I do want to recognize our volunteers. And and I think it turned out awesome. I believe the space, the food, the tables, the giant spider part, and everything else is awesome. And I want that sign. I'm going to give that to Jeff, so don't let that sign go. So as a token of our first, and represent our first facilities forum, I had a special thing to take for each one of you to take back with you. It is a coin that has the system level seal on it, plus the gearing up symbol. I think it is very nice. It's something to recognize our first ever facilities forum. And they're handing out, our volunteers are handing out in this piece, I think, for a nice token to take home back with you. And remember, bring it out. In the Navy, we use these things a lot, and if we have a beer event and you don't have beers, you're paying. It's usually the way it works, right? Those military guys. But now, think that this is something I think anytime you need a help, look at it and say, okay, I know there's somebody in this that will help me. All right. That being said, I think we are at a close. Is there any last things, any housekeeping we need to do, Jackie? Okay, so we get a box or something to drop them in at the door? Okay, absolutely. Anything else? Parking stuff all good? No housekeeping. Okay, well, if that being said, you know what? Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for saving me for that. Yes. Jennifer and Jackie are awesome. They put a lot of time and effort. They were part of the volunteer, but I sort of voluntold. So. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. You guys had a lot of great help, and I do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now I'm good. I just hit the up, right? All right. Well, thank you very much. I think we are.